For many, this heat, dust, and isolation remain the perception of agriculture. However, in the 21st century, agriculture is an exciting, high-tech sector that feeds the world.
Thank you for coming to chat to us.
You're very welcome. Thank you for asking me. It's a privilege and an honor.
We've been following you for quite some time. So I said to Louise, I actually want to chat to you because it looks very interesting as what you're doing.
It's definitely different than the usual
Yes.
usual operations.
Yes.
Let's say that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I'm Dewald and this is Louise. I don't know if you...
Hi there. Great to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Yes. And thanks for coming to chat to us again. Like I said in the message, we're just gonna chat because we are curious, and you are more than welcome to ask any questions from your side as well about anything. So,
okay, great.
I think let's tell us who you are, where you're from, and what you're doing.
Well, I'm actually very Afrikaans. I come from a Boere family in the Klein Karoo. So I grew up between. Ja, goeiemorgen vir julle ook. So I grew up on a farm between Van Wyksdorp and Ladysmith and Riversdale. It's like in the middle.
Wow.
Kind of.
That's like deep in the middle of nowhere.
And we were not fruit farmers. My father had a small piece of vineyard for wine. We had lucerne. We had basically animals. We had cows, sheep, goats, and that's the area that I grew up with. I was a real tomboy. I loved the farm. I loved being outside. I went fishing. I went hunting. All that kinds of stuff. I even went to a very small school. And that was basically my upbringing. Went to university later. I studied as a teacher.
Oh.
And I even went to the UK for 1 or 2 years, did my training and my actual experience there, loved it. I always wanted to see Scotland and some of those places, did that. And I came back. It was a very interesting thing why I came back. I went to Ireland on one of my trips, and I had this experience where one day we were in, I think it was Belfast, and they said, "Oh, we have to move because the Catholic group and the other group with Protestants, there was a situation where they were coming for a funeral, and they said, we have to move, it's dangerous." And there was a story that, even if you, depending on which area you go in, people still have a gun underneath the counter if you're on the wrong religion. And I was having this epiphany thinking that we think we have such huge issues in South Africa, but these guys are killing each other for religion, which is so much worse for me at that stage.
And both of them serve the same church, basically.
Exactly. And I was like, you know what, South Africa is not that bad. I went back, I was going to teach, and a good friend, which is in the industry, Snyman Chris Singer, he owns Grown For You at the moment. He
yes, I know the name, Fruit For You.
Yeah.
Eastern Cape.
Yes, yeah, Grown For You, yes. And he said, come work for me. And I was like, well, I just got my teaching, and I still want to go to Thailand, and I went. Actually, I did go to him, and basically my fruit career kicked off. I believe that once you set your feet inside this business, you never get out. You just don't seem to get out. You move around, you change your areas, but you don't get out. It's too exciting. There's too much adrenaline. There's too much happening. And what I love about it is every 6 months, there's something new. It's not a mundane thing that stays the same. Doesn't matter what new, but there's always something. So I joined him just before he started Grown For You. He left for the Eastern Cape. He set that up. And I stayed behind with a UK company, which I worked for almost 8 years. And basically with that would be the start of the story, how I get to Morocco.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I don't know if you want me to continue or if you
Yeah,
have a
yeah.
question.
Well, hang on. Wonderful to hear your story.
So then I was with this company for more than 7 years. We started a quality business unit in South Africa. We were exporting fruit from South Africa, worked with many every season, all the ALG and Citrus Dal. So all the big guys, Potensi, the guys up in the north, Lafayette, Citrus, all the main guys that you would know. And at some stage, they said, "Wow, let's do this quality thing. We want to have the best quality coming into the UK. We need to set up a quality team, and you're going to do it." And I was like, "Oh my word!" It was quite a big thing for me to set up this whole business unit. I had to find QCs. We did it for a year, and they said, "You know what? This is amazing. We should do this in Spain." Who will go? Who in your team go? Because you're the manager. Who's going to go? And I said, "I want to go. I want to learn Spanish. I want to be going, have the whole experience." I was talking to a life coach and I said, "I have this vision of red geraniums in my window with blue shutters." I was so excited. And I got to the UK, and when I got there, it was just Brexit. And the Spanish guys were thinking about it, and they're like, "Well, we don't know if we should just, get people going into our pack house." And they said, "But we're going to send you to Morocco. You can move between Spain, Morocco." And I remember I was thinking, this is either the worst decision of my life or the best. I just sold my car. I just gave up my house because I was going to move 6 months. I was going to be citrus in South Africa, citrus in Spain, because my stone for the vision that I was managing in the off season, I kind of gave it up. And I went and I came to Morocco. I had to do some audits. I was some great big guys that works here. They sent me to them. And it was absolutely amazing. I remember how scared I was. It's a Muslim country. I've never been here. It's not a woman, the stories that you hear. And I came here and it was so amazing. I felt so loved by the people. They were so kind and they were so helpful and generous. And I had I always say to people, there's a romantic version and then there's the short version. The romantic version from the whole story was that one day I actually went to Stisnit. It was a little village close to this pack house that I visited. And I remember walking in and this whole place was full of blue shutters. And I was like, "Oh, that's nice." I was kind of looking for these blue shutters in Spain. And the next day when I was walking in the pack house, I was for the first time realizing that the pathway down to the pack house was lined with red geraniums. And I had this aha moment.
Uh-huh.
It sounds silly, but it was a strange feeling. Anyway, there was another pack house. I went to audit this pack house, spent 3 days. I was coaching them to prepare them for a audit with Marks and Spencer supermarket. And at the end of this, they said to me, "Why didn't you come work for us?" And I said, "Well, it's not bad here. The weather is nice. Your winters are really nice. I could live here for 6 months or something. I could do something like this." I went home. People do say these things and are not serious about it. And these were very interesting guys because they called me 2 months later just to tell me, "Well, we got our certification. Thank you for your help. Are you going to come work for us?"
Okay.
And I said, "Give me 2 weeks. Let me think about this." And he was finished and he called me and he said, "So are you going to come work for us?" And I called people that I know, Scott Dowell, who's part of Pipped Fruit, and I called Snyman again, people I knew. And I said, "What do you think?" And they said, "Why not? You don't have kids, you're not married, you're not stuck or connected to South Africa that much. Why don't you do it? If it doesn't work out, you come back, we're going to give you a job."
Okay.
And I said, "Okay." So I came to Morocco.
When was that?
So I came for the visit end of December 2015. 2016, by March, they said, "Come work for us." September 2016 on the 4th, I arrived, basically. So it was like really 6 months after they asked me, I basically pitched up in Morocco. And I think we're stalled.
We can hear you. We can see you.
Can you guys still see me?
Yes.
Sorry, yeah, we stalled for a moment. Sorry, it's okay. It's okay now.
Okay.
Anyway, so I remember I arrived here. I was picked up. They were driving to show me this pack house. We kind of said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I can be a development, manager to help you develop, help you with the quality, help you with." But we were just like starting to figure it out. And I remember we drove down this road, and there was nothing. There is really nothing. Like it's semi-desert, a lot of it here. It's like going to Beaufort West, when it's just there's not even mountains, it's just like sand or clay, a lot of clay. Marrakesh is we call it the red city. It's very clay soil. And I was looking out of this window and I was just sitting there thinking, what were you thinking? What were you thinking? It was another moment like that. Also, I arrived right in the High Eid moment, which was the festival where it's actually coming up in a few weeks for us again. That year it was in September, where you have the slaughter of the sheep. So it's the Abraham's promise that God gave him the sheep to slaughter instead of his son. And it was that period. So it's a very, very interesting, but a very intense introduction into Morocco when you come here and you have that, because people are driving around on scooters and the sheep is sitting in front of him. They have like they call it sheep hotels. So they have like a little small holding that they keep them for when the families can pick them up. You see a guy standing with a sheep inside a bus or in the back of his car looking through the window. Or it was really strange. Where now it's not at all strange or different. Then it was quite a culture shock for me. And when you have the Eid, it's a beautiful time for them. People actually invited me to their home, and I said no, I don't think so. Just let me settle in. It's my first week. It's quite, that was like my introduction. I was, and then basically we slowly started the work with this pack house. So September, your season starts more like October, November, and then I had a bit of a slow start. But that was my first introduction into Morocco.
Wow.
Basically.
Awesome.
Yeah. It was quite something, yes.
Well, you can imagine. Well, so how is Morocco today? Because from what we see on the internet, looks like everything is happening there.
It's quite an amazing country. It's really, I have so many people that come and visit me, family, friends. My mother has been here twice, my sister. And honestly, when they leave, they said, I would love to come live here. It's really strange. You wouldn't expect that. It's almost impossible to describe to you, but if you ever come, you will understand. So there's a amazing culture. There's an amazing warmth and givingness. But it's spices, it's color, it's tradition. It's the building style is different. So it's a very exotic. That's the word to describe it. It's really exotic. You have the North Tangier, which is a bit more like Spain. They speak Spanish there. You have Fez that has the artisans. You have the tanneries of the leather. You have amazing artisans here. It's unbelievable the things that they can make. The pottery, the iron work, everything is. You absolutely, you want to export that. When I see, I'm like, I wish I could send this to the rest of the world. It's so amazing. And then you come to the fruit side. It is big part desert, but you would be very amazed how much we are growing here. Citrus is huge. And the very amazing thing that I don't think it's proclaimed enough out there is that Nadagat, which is the most amazing mandarin that you basically, we haven't been able to top that variety. It's originated from Morocco.
Yes.
It was planted here. It was designed. It was created. It's from Morocco. They were a bit slow.
Incredible.
Yeah, there's a very nice history about the guy that he was one of the, I think they were part of the King's group, the domain agricole, and Nadori was his name. He basically discovered this. I think it was like 1980. My information is not necessarily correct. And then South Africans came here, and even Australians, these guys came in and they're like, well, this is interesting. I think, even if you speak to guys like H. Van Roy, and those guys will still tell you, we were here and we saw it, and people actually came here and they saw it and they planted it. And I think Australia and South Africa kind of exploded so much with that cultivation before Morocco even realized the amazing product that they had. So it's quite an interesting, I mean, even in America and Spain, you have this huge production where it's originally from here.
So the original narki that we know growing up as kids, is that originally from Morocco?
That's not completely.
Oh.
So naricot is more a mandarin. Then you have a clementine. So the clementine is the more seeded. The idea about naricot, it's virtually seeded. And if Morocco try to plant it in isolated areas, so it's away from other cross-pollinating orchards. That's basically what they do here. So you try to keep it as seedless as possible. That would make it special. It has a beautiful orange skin. It's easy peeling. It has a very fresh, strong taste and smell. And I know that Clement Gold Group from South Africa import quite, good volumes from here. And you would see when you don't have South African product, you will have Moroccan product in Woolworths, basically. Okay. It's quite interesting. The narki that you talk about, that is more clementine varieties. And that's kind of, I think it's a cross between, I'm not even sure which varieties, but that's clementine. So you have quite people, we talk about narki. The moment I kind of reach Morocco, you realize that there is 5, 6 to 10 different varieties, and they do look and taste different. Yes, which is quite interesting. So there's windows for them when you start understanding this period. So in the beginning for Morocco, we have a Bruno, which is our first variety, and then we switch over maybe to a Espal, and and by December, end of December, we start with the naricot, and that continues into March, April.
Okay.
So if I have to go back to our school geography, we always learned that the Western Cape was the only place in Africa that had a Mediterranean climate, except for the Atlas Mountains, also have a Mediterranean climate. So are you living in an area that has a Mediterranean climate? You have snow in the winter and warm summers, dry summers?
We do. So I mean, you have to understand a lot of this stuff. I remember when people sometimes look at these kind of podcasts or interviews or even the articles, they come back and they're like, well, that's not exactly correct. I think it's how you perceive stuff, and this is my version of it. I think that Marrakesh, where I live, has the best naricot. And I'll tell you why. Because we are so close to the Atlas Mountains. We have the snow and we have the very dry summer. And people's like, but how can you live here? It's so hot. And I said, I love it. We reach to 42 degrees, even 46 degrees in the summer, but it's dry heat. And it's exactly as Oudtshoorn. So I grew up in Ladysmith. We were right next to Oudtshoorn. So it was nothing different from what I'm used to. It's kind of my climate. Some of the areas look the same. So it's like kind of inside home. It's the same. So yes, you are correct. We have that very cold nights. We have the snow. We have that cold that kind of moves into the valley. And you have the very beautiful dry summers. And for me, we have naricot in other areas as well. And even in Agadir, it's such a big kind of area. There's areas that's closer to the mountain with the snow that also have very Taroudan and Louise. They also have that because it's just kind of in the other side of the mountain, maybe. You do have other areas more north. I find that it doesn't have the same flavor and taste. Not exactly like the Marrakesh one, but that has a good effect on it, yes.
Okay. Oh, wow.
So you are right. I fully agree.
And in terms of other, I'm just curious because Morocco is still on my never-ending bucket list of places to visit. What's the safety like there? I know that when we were in America last year, being from South Africa, we're always safety conscious, and the people look at us and said, "But you can leave your stuff in the car outside at night in the driveway," and it's like weird. So, what's it like there with the perceived, like what you were told before you were going there?
I'm scared if I tell you that you're all going to move over here, okay? And I'm going to have loads of competition. It's really safe. It's unbelievably safe. I've never felt threatened or uncomfortable, or I don't perceive them as a violent country. I've never seen people physically being violent. Maybe people will shout and it's a bit loud. And normally if you listen and you shout back, they're like, okay, it's okay. So, they immediately, it's a very tolerant country. But apart from that, if you see my house, you're going to be very amazed in the sense that I have wooden doors, which is quite old, with glass, which means that basically if you push them hard enough, they open. On top of that, half of the time I forget to close my doors or lock them. I'm not joking. I do this all the time. I the last 3 or 4 times, I forgot my key in the front of my door. And sometimes the car key is on that key. And then the next morning, my house manager comes in and she's like, "You have put the key outside again." So that's how safe it is.
The problem is when you come back to visit in South Africa, then you do the same and the car won't be there.
The problem is when you go back to South Africa, because a lot of people ask me, why, don't you want to come back? Are you ever going to come back? And I would love to come back. I think it's the most beautiful country in the world. Everybody I know from Spain, from the UK, South Africa is to them the bucket list to go live. It's so beautiful. It's, and when you get there, every time you go for a visit, you're thinking, oh, wow. You kind of forgot how amazing and how beautiful the food, the quality of the food that you guys have, your restaurants, your shops, there's such a high quality, which we do not have here necessarily. There's such a high customer service quality that you have that we don't always have here. You're so serious. Your competition is so much. We do not have this here, but the safety thing, because I'm so spoiled. I've been living here for 7 years, so I'm so spoiled. When I do go back, I don't sleep comfortably there. I am nervous, and you are even more aware that you've been out of it, because when you live there, like you guys, you kind of adapt and you get used to it. When you go back as a visitor, you have lost your natural instinct of being careful. It's not as good. And I get reminded of this when I have visitors. I remember I had some guys a few years ago, and I was like, let's go to the Medina. And we went into the Medina. So it's like the Medina is it's the old city inside Marrakesh. And you have houses, people live there, but a lot of small shops, and it's amazing to go through it. And you always get lost, and that's part of the amazement. And I remember I got lost, and I was like, I'm not sure where we are. And I had a strong South African guy behind me, and a tough lady. Both of them not small, they're versus everybody else. And I could feel their discomfort and nervousness. And for the first time I realized, I was like, oh, I became so relaxed here that I forgot that I lost some of that built-in fear that we have in South Africa. We have a built-in radar for danger, for being careful, being cautious, which is sad. And I completely lost that. I don't sleep nervously. I don't hear sounds, or even if I do, I don't wake up and thinking, what is that? I turn around and I just continue sleeping. And I live alone in my house. I don't have a dog. That's really how safe it is.
Cool. Wow.
I've never been in I have never had a car broken into. I've never had my house broken into. Never been in a situation where I felt I was threatened. So that's quite amazing. And especially for people that I have a lot of people coming in being fearful and being nervous. I think the religion thing is a big thing for people because it's Muslim. And I think people have that same kind of nervousness that they would have with Saudi or Dubai or any of those countries. I call them lenient Muslims. They are so accommodating. Nobody expects you to do anything or to follow their ways. And there's no strict rules. There is no, I don't have to cover my hair. I don't have to cover my shoulders. I don't have to cover my ankles. People walk around like they walk around. There's no real judgment. And even the younger generation here actually kind of goes with the newer trends. So it's a really amazing mix between Africa, I want to say the Arab world, but also Europe. So we have loads of French influence, we have a lot of Spanish influence, and then you have this beautiful mix, which is quite a interesting, exotic experience.
It sounds incredible.
And the food is amazing, by the way.
Oh, that we have heard.
Yes.
But it's very, very interesting to hear about the culture. But tell us about your job. Tell us about your day job, what you do exactly, and where does the product that you work with, where is it sold? Where is it shipped to?
Okay, so when I came here, I came to work for a company. I work for them. So I specifically, I didn't come here and said, I'm going to start a company. I came to work for guys. I loved it. I loved working in the pack house. We started from scratch. We built it. We built a brand. And then I think about 3.5 years in, they sold a big part of it to a Spanish company. So there was a joint venture. And at that stage, I kind of realized this might not be the perfect career move for me, or looking into the future, I'm not sure if this is going to go where I kind of envisioned myself to go. And I basically said, okay, you guys, I'm gonna have to go on my own. I resigned. And then I was thinking, but what am I going to do now? I don't really want to go back to South Africa. I've been here free, and I really had a feeling that I'm not ready to go yet. I always thought when I came here, my plan was 2.5 years. I said to the guys, I'm committing to 2 years. Maybe I'll make it 3 years, but let's see how it goes. But I commit 2 years to you guys to help you build up this thing. And then my 3 years was over, and I was like, I still want to stay here. I don't want to go home yet. I kind of like it. I was like driving that same quiet, desolated road that I was driving. And I was looking, and I'm like, I really like this. I still want to be here. I'm not ready to go. And then I realized, because I'm South African, I have South African passport, and we can go nowhere without either a visa or a whatever, and how difficult that is. I had a work permit that wasn't expired, and they said, oh, it's not that complicated. You need to start a company. So I was not one of those guys that, some people kind of got born and they say, I want to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I wasn't one of those. I loved working for a boss. I always said, I'm good at making money for other people. And I was like, okay, I'm going to have to start a company. And then COVID hit 3 months later. So I was back to my usual, oh my word, this can go well, or this can be a disaster, COVID wasn't that bad. As you all know, we started I was also in a position where I realized that there's a lot to do here. We have the citrus, there's a lot of commercial opportunities, but there's also a lot of other products. And at that stage, I was like, I would love to explore some of that. So in the last 2 or 3 years, we kind of branched out. I built up a little team. I started finding my growers, and it wasn't easy. I know. To tell you the story, if you really go into details, it's hard. It's really hard to be a woman in a different country. You have a different culture, a different language. You are not part of the religion. So it wasn't easy. It was quite a challenging process. It was a good one. So we've done watermelons, we've tried melons, we've done some peppers. Morocco is well known for their tomatoes. So there's a very good vegetable side, which is amazing, especially in the Agadir side. Agadir is a little bit more south, is closer to the sea. Marrakech have beautiful citrus. They're very focused on the citrus, but there's some other produce as well in this area, watermelons, melons. Then you have a little bit north where we have berries, raspberries, blueberries, strawberries. So there's quite a wide variety of products that you can actually go into. Pomegranates, we have really nice pomegranates here. And we started slowly to get into this. I have quite a big group of people that knows me, that knows of me, that I used to work with. And we also worked in, especially in the COVID period, of people that came to us and say, do you have this? And we're like, yes, we can find it. In Morocco, they have a saying, they said, if you say, can we do this? And they said, in Morocco, we can do everything. Okay. They really have this attitude. Even if they don't know how, they were like, yes, yes, yes. And then they're going to find a way.
Yeah, but it's many times that we've been in that position. I've said to them many times, look, I've not done this before, but I'm telling you now, I can do it.
Exactly. So you can try. So that's where we basically win. If I'm really honest with you, I think with COVID hitting, that was a nervous period. All of a sudden moving away from a company where you had a salary, you start a new business, you had to find a team, you had to find the growers, the product, everything. And it was COVID. That was quite a scary, strange time. And I think COVID had even if on these products we moved, I think our industry was very lucky. People needed food, they needed the vegetables and the fruit. It was still a daunting time. And I think emotionally we all suffered and that was quite hard. So I really had a vision where I said, guys, in this next 3 years, we just need to survive. We don't need to make money. We need to survive. If we can make this 3 years, we can basically do anything. And that was what we did. We really focused on that. We didn't take crazy risk. We didn't do crazy volume. We really where other people maybe really use that time to do big business, to make big money. That wasn't the focus. The focus was really to make this company slowly grow so that it's sustainable, find the right basis that when we get out of this, we kind of come out of it stronger. And that's what happened. I can really say at the end, that's what happened. And it was very interesting this last year or two, especially the last year, is how I can see the environment changing. I have the growers coming to me, good growers, where they serious people that are saying, listen, we want to do something with you. It also took a while to win people to kind of trust you. You have to earn the trust. Like most countries, and it's still Africa. I mean, you have a lot of people that sell and don't get paid or, take advances and don't send the product. So we really focused on building our reputation. We focus a lot on our social media, our Instagram. We try to put a kind of picture or an album together that people can understand what we're doing and what it looks like over here. On the LinkedIn, we try to be, real, to give a kind of idea of what life is really like here.
That's what caught our attention is the stuff on LinkedIn. And that was my next question is, how instrumental has particularly LinkedIn been in your success?
I think it was a very, very good tool. It was amazing for exposure, for people that know you, that probably forgot about you, that realized again that you are here. To give the image and to portray yourself. I think it's a very personal tool where you become the brand, the face of your company. Yes. I think people really like to see the real person there, and what it's really like, just to understand the stories and the struggles, but also understand the interesting things that you do. There's a lot of demand. I think it's really difficult because, you don't always know which ones are serious and which not. It's really difficult to kind of filter that. But also on the grower side, I think a lot of the Moroccans on this side got a bit of comfort and feeling that, well, actually, maybe you are legit. where, you know, there's lots of people that comes in and goes, and it never really happens. So that LinkedIn, I think, is quite a good one. You don't always get more business, but you do get interesting connections. And we were joking after when I went to Berlin last year, and I had a guy come up and he says, "Hello, Stephanie, how are you?" And I was like, "Who are you?" And he said, "You don't know me, but I follow you on LinkedIn."
Yes.
There was a guy next to me. He's like, "Oh, you're famous." It was just such a weird, you know, because I don't even recognize the people that I see in LinkedIn in real life.
Yes.
So then I came back and I said to my social team, I said, "You need to keep staying on LinkedIn, people, because clearly this is working."
And LinkedIn has been very powerful for us. And we often, you look at the stats and you don't see the likes, you don't see the comments, and you don't always see engagement. But when you go somewhere and people say to you, "Oh, you guys are so busy, we follow you," and we see everything that you do, then you know at least the eyes is on the content that you put out. It doesn't necessarily mean that they interact with it.
And it's rewarding, isn't it?
Yes,
it's like, well, at least, because there's a lot of time that you feel like you're putting, because it takes time. I mean, especially you guys, the editing and the work that you've done, and, you know, the posting. I don't think people realize how much time and effort goes into that. So I commend you guys for what you're doing, because that is a lot of work. The footage to get the footage, the pictures. I mean, and you have very beautiful videos. I always look at those. And that's a lot of work. That's very hard work. It's a lot of time and effort. And that 5 seconds or 1 minute that you put out there, people don't realize how much work goes into that. It's really hard to get that context, and it's really hard to write it. And that's, you know, a lot of work. So when someone comes up and they say, "Oh, that was really good," or "I read that," that's kind of a rewarding. And you're like, "Oh, at least it's been noticed. You know, someone actually did see that." One of the other strange things is I think you build up a very nice image, if we're really honest. I had a Moroccan lady coming up to me, and she's like, "Oh, I know you. I followed you on LinkedIn." And she says, "You look so amazing on LinkedIn." And I was looking and I said, I clearly don't have the same, you know, appearance in real life. I'm going to have to work on that. Next time I leave my house, I'm going to, you know, really have to updo this, because you seem to be disappointed when you just met me. So that was also an interesting, you know, kind of experience that how you kind of create a beautiful image on LinkedIn. So it's hard to keep it real. It's hard to but it's interesting. I mean, you need to try and be as real as possible and as close as possible, so that when people meet you, they're not disappointed when they actually get at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. I used to have this whole thing when I was still photographed weddings, is that usually the mother-in-laws that would come to me, or the bridesman, says, "Well, you need to fix my chin or my arms or my boobs or whatever." And then I would say, "Okay, fine, I can do that." So I said, "What's the first thing you're going to do when you get your wedding photos, like 3 months later, 2 months later, afterwards?
Yeah.
What's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to invite all your friends to come and sit here and look at the photos, and you're going to have cake and coffee and tea and talk nonsense the whole day. And what do you think is the first thing they're going to say to their husband when they get home that evening?" And they look at me and says, "What do you mean?" I said, they're going to tell the husband, "You got fat in the 3 months after your wedding, because in the photo you are skinny, and here you are not skinny anymore."
The optics are always something that you have to remember. And that experience of when you're putting all the stuff out there on LinkedIn, people are looking at you, but it's anonymous, and then they come up to you as if they know you. It is a strange new world that we live in.
Yeah.
But now the produce that you are dealing with, are you buying that from growers and exporting it or selling it locally? And what are your main products?
Or are you just a facilitator putting them together, or how does
your business work?
Okay, so I always say I kind of work on pillars or legs. We are a registered importer and exporter. I do not import. It's very complicated. and it's an African country. You know, its payments are slow, or you don't get paid. That's a bit complicated. So at that level, we are a 3.5-year-old company, almost 4-year-old company. We are still new. So we basically work on 3 legs. The one is export. So we buy the products, but we do this very specifically. I have a very much a South African mentality. The guys that I work with, they all know this, and maybe they like that. I don't work Moroccan way. I very much work from where I come from and what I've learned and based on that. So I am an exporter. To be an exporter, people don't just give you fruit here and they're like, oh, take my fruit. Can you market it for me? They don't do that. Nobody trusts you. No, people have been, cheated too many times, or they've made too many losses. And there's a very interesting concept here, which is, you have a grower and you have a pack house exporter. The two struggle to come together. When you find that, I'm like, yes, it's a unicorn. That's my unicorns. I'm looking for the unicorns. I'm very privileged because we are a small company. We have small, not huge overheads, and we can move around, unless maybe the bigger organization that's here. So we really can move into these things and do this thing, basically. So we have an export side where we export. We go to the grower. We find the right guys. We focus very much on quality, serious guys, and we always check everything that we export. We never buy from an office and do not know what's going on. So there's a quality team, and I'm going to get to the quality leg. So I have a quality team. When we choose our pack houses, we only work with a few selected ones. We check the certification. So we really do a lot of extra. We put a lot of work into this to make it better and try to build up that reputation of being honest, being reputable, being able to give, and we really, really do it. So one of the quality team will always be in the pack house. They sometimes work till 4:00 in the morning. They don't leave until we close that door, and he sends me a photo or she sends me a photo and say, okay, we finished, we close the door. No exporter or trader here. We're not traders, but no exporter or trader, they do that. I'm pretty sure of that. Then we have a commission-based situation where we basically work on citrus with this. Citrus is such a huge commodity, volume-wise, money-wise, and where it can go wrong. Because if you're not really sure what your growers are doing on that, you can't just buy and sell. It's too fast, it's too big, it's too huge into the world. So we work on citrus as an exporter commercial side for a group or a grower. We are connected with one or two. We are their loyal commercial basically team, and that's the same thing that we basically do. The Growing for You, the Every Seasons, where you are the exporting company for free growers. I always had the vision to kind of have that situation where you have your 2 or 3 growers, and you basically have your programs, your customers, and you just move that volume. So we're working in that direction with that. And then our third leg or final leg would be quality, which is also a kind of amazing. That was a really amazing part in COVID also for us, where we have fixed customers. It's always outside customers. So we have Canada, we have South African guys, we have USA. We do work with wonderful citrus, and we basically do the quality work for them. So we completely focused on, they have their programs, they have their pack houses. We go in, we supervise that packing and stuff. We do a report that goes back to them, and we try to do it real time as fast as possible. The difference between us and maybe and another company that you rent in is we also make decisions on the ground. We don't just like, well, there's your report, this is your problem. It's not their problem, it's our problem. So we walk around in the pack house during that packing or that loading. If there's something that's interesting, either we say, guys, you can't pack it, it's not within the specs, we stop the operation. If it's not too severe, we will call the guys in whichever country it is, and we say, listen, this is what we're seeing, here's the photos, are you okay with this? You want to continue or you don't want to continue? Do you need us to stop? And then we'll find a solution with the pack house. So it's not, we go in and we're like, you cannot pack this. We say, guys, this is not going to work. We know that you need to ship this. We know that this is important. So basically, we're like an extended part of that team. And the pack house has been really good about it. They've been very, it's not like when you come in and we don't police. They work with us. They accommodate us. We will say, okay, this is not working. They were like, okay, don't worry. We have another batch coming in. We have another grower. And then we switch over. So sometimes the customer doesn't even know about it. We just solve it with the pack house at that moment. If it's something else that we have to say, guys, let me just check with these guys because there's not enough boxes. We need to switch to maybe a black box. We'll call the guys on the other side. We say, yeah, it's okay. We can do it, but only do it with this and this. So we like to work on that situation where the customer is always informed, whether it's us exporting or doing a commercial job or doing a quality job. I do believe that when your customer on the inside is informed and he knows what he's expecting, it's not a surprise, it's always okay. They can handle it and they can manage it. So that's basically
communication. And Louise has got a very nice Afrikaans. She's got a very nice Afrikaans saying about communication.
Yeah.
Communicatie of communicak? Does that make sense to me?
Good one.
I thought so.
That's a very good one. I'll probably use it, especially if nobody's going to understand that.
It's very simple and clarity. You get the picture. So that it sounds to me like what you're describing is a quality control service provider service to some of to people that are not your own export company, but to other people as well.
Yes.
So that's an incredibly interesting value add that you are assisting with for other people.
But I'm sorry, I'm curious. So also when you say the pack houses and the growers, so by the sounds of things, like a farm or a production unit won't have its own pack house. There's pack houses that pack for a whole bunch of growers, and well, how does that work also?
That's also a very interesting concept. Morocco is quite behind where we are in South Africa. If you think South Africa, people say, when I call you, people say we're 10 years in advance. And I said, no, 5 years, because I was very positive. We are a bit behind here. It's still, the top of Africa. South Africa has been amazing. And I would tell every Moroccan that we want to listen, I tell this story because I always say, guys, you have to be like South Africa because Morocco aims to be like Spain. I say, be like South Africa and follow their ways. You pick, you pack, you basically get it into the cold rooms. You need to move much faster. And South Africa is special because they have learned to survive. They know that if I don't do the right quality, my journeys is always going to be 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. I do not have a choice to do the best job because if I don't, we're not gonna make it. Where here we're kind of spoiled. We are sometimes by truck. We're 4 days from Spain. We're 7 days from Holland. 7 days from UK. We are 12 days from Canada. We are 12 days from Russia. We're 9 days from Saudi. I'm like, you guys have hit the jackpot. You just need to get it, you just need to get it right. So it's also a situation like South Africa where we don't necessarily have a huge amount of money or investments necessarily. So there's a lot of guys that are growing, that has farm, that has land. The country very much tries to promote and develop the agriculture business, which is really great. There are two sides. There's growers that sell their fruit to a pack house and an exporter, or they buy, they source like I would do. And then there's actually farmers, big groups that do have their own farms, their own pack houses. They might bring in a little bit more production. So there is kind of both sides. So, yeah, it depends on which group you actually work with.
Okay.
Whole country, is agriculture booming?
It looks like it.
I do think so. I mean, citrus, people are still planting. They are looking at doing some new varieties. They're looking at, extending some of the plantings. We have some old varieties, but people are getting to the stage where we are planting new ones, and that's going to come into production. Avocado is still increasing. Blueberries is quite picking up here. So yeah, Tomatoes is quite a big business. That's doing really great. And Morocco is doing really well in terms of where do we go? We actually go all over the world, just like South Africa, Middle East, Russia, Europe, UK, Canada, USA, even Asia. So it's pretty much the same situation. There's quite a good, and I mean, you have the shipping lines between us and Spain. There's a lot of pros that you actually have here. You just need to make use of those positives.
So when you pack a truck to go to Europe, the truck gets packed, goes on the ferry across to Europe. How long is the trip across the Gibraltar? How long does it take to get to Spain?
That's quite fast. I think that's like 5 hours or 6 hours. It's quite a fast thing. So the time that we talk about a day to get from Tangier to Algeciras a day, and that's just because it takes time to get it onto the ferry, and you have your period of the journey, and then get off at the other side. But you can basically see from Tangier, you can actually see the other side on a clear day. So it's quite a short journey. If you go to one of the other ports, I mean, it takes a little bit longer, but that's if you come from Marrakesh or even Agadir, it takes up to 4 days, maybe 5, depending if there's a bit of delay in the ports. That's a really good transit. And we have really good business as well I personally have a very good business with Spain. It's a nice, quick transit. I work with guys that's actual growers, that's really good guys. I never have problems. I get paid. I don't have claims. It's good relationships. It's kind of a pleasure to work with them.
For us, as you described about South Africa being where we are situated and how long our supply chains are, it's always to me incredible to think that when you guys are exporting your stuff to Europe, you're in Africa. There's a sea between you and Europe, but you're actually sending your stuff to Europe by truck. It's like,
it's amazing, isn't it?
It's phenomenal to think about that you're packing it onto the truck, and the same wheels that you're seeing here are delivering it to your receiver on the other side. And as you say, that's what makes Morocco so amazing, that you've hit the jackpot as when it comes to the supply chain. So I can understand that if agriculture is growing there, and I mean people in your markets, they want food, and the demand is growing. So it certainly sounds like you're onto something very exciting.
I do think it's very exciting. I think that's part of the reason staying here. We have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of infrastructure that can still develop and increase and improve. We do have our challenges. We're still in Africa. If we had half of the stuff, there's a lot of things that South Africa has implemented, ways that you work in your back house, things that you've added, how fast you work. If we get to that level in Morocco with a market that's so close, we're going to be phenomenal, honestly. So I think the exciting part about being here is, when you're in a country and you do stuff, but everybody does it, and there's not much more to change to improve. There's so much more to do and so much more to develop, that you go back to that first comment that I made, that part of my excitement about being in the food industry is like every 6 months, there's this new opportunity, adventure, or something that comes up, like you're like, oh, we can do this, we have a thing in the office. I don't know if my team always get excited about that, but I said, we have like I call it the restructuring, but they don't like that word, but it's almost like a renovate period. And I said every 6 months we have a review, basically. So we review every 6 months, where we have our off season. I have like a big whiteboard, and we start making notes. We take every kind of area of the company, and we're like, okay, social media, how do we have to up this? Okay, what is a new opportunity? And then there's stuff that just comes up, and you're like, oh, you know what? We haven't thought about this. We can actually do this. Yeah. On the quality side, it was an idea in the beginning, and people don't, you don't use necessarily the locals. You use outside customers, which is great, and you get paid, and that's wonderful. But it was an extra, and that actually became such an interesting pillar in this business that we are at the point saying that, listen, this is going to become a separate company where Agri-Bianco is actually going to rent those services. So we were working on moving it out to keep it confidential, and because it's still quality, you still walk around in people's pack houses, and to give that an identity of its own where we will use it, but we don't interfere with other people's business, and that is going to have its own manager, its own team, and it's going to be a complete separate unit that still protects the interest of whoever uses that service, because it is a very confidential, very sensitive service that needs to be confidential.
Of course. So how many people are working for you currently in the various aspects of your job?
And are they Moroccan?
Yes.
They're all Moroccan, yes.
Okay.
And what language?
So we're about
them?
English.
Oh, okay.
So that's another joke. We have loads of jokes in this office. We so we have our quality team. We're have about 3 people that we have inside that quality team, and that would probably be growing.
Okay.
Then I have my office. I have an assistant and an admin person that works with me closely. We're probably going to add a commercial at some stage, not yet. And then we have a social media presence as well. They're all Moroccan, basically, men and women. The joke that we have is that I don't speak French in Darija still. They don't believe even that I understand enough. I do. But everybody speaks perfect English. So they're basically saying, and that's true. Most of them came in speaking a little bit of English, and we kind of communicate. They speak perfect English.
Incredible. Wow.
In 2 or 3 years. So that's the advantage. I still don't speak the other languages, but my team is they speak French, they speak Darija. Some of them have a bit of Spanish. So we are quite a nice, cultural and language-based unit. They're completely local. They know the people, they know the culture. They are so trustworthy. I have a really amazing team. Again, it's unicorns. It's really hard to find them. The reason that our team is not necessarily booming is because we very much focus on finding a team that fits. That's really important for us. So you would, look at someone you're like, that's not going to work, because we have such a nice dynamic, and we actually have a lot of fun. It's there's a lot of joking and a lot of
you have to do that.
Other nonsense and fun and stuff going around. Our technical manager, which is in charge of quality, he's always the clown that comes in and make jokes. And if it looks like you're having a stressful day, he'll be joking around until you laugh, and he's like, okay, now you're better. I've done my job. I can go home now, kind of, attitude.
Oh.
You can't buy that. Either people have it or they don't. And if you've got a caring company culture where there's a sense of humor in with the hard work, it really makes it
amazing. It's really amazing, and it really makes it worth it when when you're far away and you're kind of isolated, and there's an unbelievable sense of family as well. It's a different culture. We would be, unlike South African, we will have lunches at the office, but we'll sit outside at the table, all of us together. So there's a lot of eating together, and they would have maybe a family thing where you get invited. They would have like a breaking of the fast, and they were like, oh, you have to come join the family, which is very interesting here. Is we do not have necessarily the same concept where when you go to Oman or Saudi or Saudi is even worse, but Dubai or Oman, they still separate the men and the women. We don't necessarily get separated. We would all sit together around the table, and you will sit with the family and the wives and the kids. I know all their wives, their kids, they know my family. My mother is in contact because normally when my family comes, part of my team would move around with them, take them into the Medina when I'm busy. They will drive them around. So they basically send each other messages. My quality manager would say, he would come in, he's like, I haven't spoken to my mother. How's my mother? And I would say, it's not your mother. You have a mother. It's my mother. So they would have little messages, and she's like, I miss you. I love you. And I was like, she doesn't miss me or love me. How come she loves you so much? What's going on here? They get presents when my family come and visit. My sister would send them presents. And I was like, where's my present? They're like, you don't need anything. And I was like, that's nice. I'm still part of the family, you know. And you know, so there's a lot of mixed culture.
It's wonderful that it works, because so
it's amazing.
Culture gets in the way of things, and if you can make it work and you can integrate and get on with people, you know, that's incredible. And when you look down the road 10 years from now, where do you see yourself?
Oh wow, I still see myself here. I honestly still see myself here with something much bigger and better. I would definitely like to go into the growing side. I would like to have a small pack house that we could keep it more controlled, more together, because that's the hard part. The hard part is having the grower that you can trust, that he really is spraying the stuff that he should be spraying. So the closer we can come to either that collaboration or have our own product, the better we're going to be. The pack house, that's going to be the dream. It's really hard to manage that and keep pack houses going here. A lot of pack houses it's you know, going under. A lot of in the world, a lot of people are, you know, not surviving. If you can have that multi-pack house where you can do more than one product, so the pack house has work all year, but again, you can control the quality, you can control the process.
Yes.
And growing bigger and better. The quality side, I would like that to be a separate business that's going to be on its own feet. That's going to really, because there's a huge demand actually for that. I think there's really potential on that side.
Hello again.
Sorry, I think we lost the connection.
No worries. I'll cut that out so it looks seamless.
Okay.
But I think
we went out over an hour. That was your timeline cutting out.
no, but my thing is still running this side. But anyway,
Okay.
so just to finish up with that subject quickly, you said that you would like to go into the growing part. What would you like to grow? Because there's so much that you could.
Easy products, not the citrus. I would love to do butternuts, watermelons, the melons, which is shorter product space. Really hard to get the good quality and the controlled environment on those products.
Okay.
I think those are the doable ones. Bring in some new things. I get excited about the new things. You know, I get excited about the new packaging. I love the branding. I love creating that kind of image. Bringing in some new products. There's something in Italy that the guys grow that I think we can do here. It's going to be a new thing, but actually it's the perfect climate. I'm hoping that we could do something like that.
What is that? What is that?
I'm not going to tell you because in Morocco we have not yet. In Morocco we have a way that, you know, with one person do everybody, but South Africa we do the same. So I need to see if that's going to work and get my feet into it first before everybody else tries to take over and do the same thing. I think peppers are an amazing product that you can, you know, Californian peppers, we have really good quality here. And if you do it correctly, we've shipped it to Canada with perfect, you know, arrivals. And most people here just send it, you know, by ferry basically to Portugal or Spain because they're too scared to go further. So I think that's the other side, being South Africa, that if you just put more work into it, and if you follow that process and that whole chain a little bit more careful, you can actually do a really good job.
Yeah.
So you kind of have that advantage where you come from and knowledge. And there's a huge privilege that even if I'm not been in the business that long, I mean, it's almost been 15 years, so it's not a short period, but what's lovely here is people see you as an expert. And that's like, I'm an expert? That's amazing. Thank you. Because you do know things that other people maybe do not know here. And that's really nice. You know, being able to go into a pack house and say, well, maybe you should do this, and maybe you should do that. And people are like, that's a great idea. And Morocco is so willing. We were having a discussion yesterday with people, and they were talking about Spanish and how Spain do it. And I said, you know what, the one thing I can commend Morocco on is if you go in for an audit and you say you basically paint a line here to segregate. And I would come back tomorrow and there would be a line. And I was like, really? Because South Africa and even Spain, they were like, why do I have to put a line?
Yes.
Is it really necessary? Is this going to be cost effective? Moroccans, it's just like, you want a line? I paint you a line. That's it. And it's the small things is you kind of jump those small issues where you can focus on the bigger issues.
Right.
Wow.
So we've got a little closing tradition where the previous guest asks a question for the next one. They don't know who it's for, and your question you'll give me, that person also won't know who it came from. So,
but it's fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and it can be anything. It can literally be anything. One of the questions is, what would you envision to be the next big change, revolution, stepping stone in the industry that you are in?
What's going to be the next?
What do you think? Or what would you like it to be?
Well, that's the next big thing. The next big thing I would really love to see, what I would love to see, I would love to see an integration between South and North. And when I say this, I believe that Spain might be the competitor for South Africa, but Morocco is not. And there's so many people that have spoken to me and said, listen, why don't we do one brand and we can supply it from South Africa and we supply it from Morocco? And nobody has done it. It's coming, but nobody has done it. So I keep seeing that Morocco is reaching out to South Africa is reaching out to, but nobody has been brave enough to kind of like, let's take that, that hand and do something. Because we will complete a whole year of supply, and yet we're not doing it because we're not competing. We're not competition for anybody. Yeah. So that would be, I would love to see that kind of integration from North to South and how we start collaborating instead of competing.
It's exciting and it makes perfect sense because at the counter season, you can fly a lot longer. Anybody receiving the same kind of product with the same branding and the same quality for a longer period of time, it just makes the whole supply much easier. So maybe your answer will inspire somebody. You might be hearing from people. You never know.
Let's see. Yeah. Let's see how that goes.
Great stuff. So I think let's wrap this up. But please don't log off yet. We need to get your question. And I just want to say thank you again for coming to join us.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a lovely experience.
It's been incredibly interesting. And if anything, I'm going to book my flight to Morocco sooner rather than later.
We've spoken about it before because you wanted to come to Morocco, but both of you, please do. Let's think about that and let's see if we can do maybe we can do some kind of Moroccan series. We might be going to pack houses and do a whole video little. Something we can talk about that later, but we couldn't do a whole Moroccan.
That would be awesome.
Interesting movie where you kind of show the world what Morocco is really like. You would love it.
Thank you
very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for having me.